Welcome to 15-Minute Battles, where we demolish history's biggest conflicts in just 15 minutes. We dive deep into the world's most pivotal military clashes, from the ancient battlefields of Marathon to the complex strategies of modern warfare. The leaders, who were the legendary generals and forgotten heroes commanding the troops, and finally, the outcomes. If you love history, military strategy, and learning something new quickly, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another historic clash.
Have you ever heard the saying, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world"? Those are the words of Archimedes, the greatest scientific mind of the ancient world. But what happens when that mind is turned not to moving the world, but to defending a city against the most powerful army on earth? This is the story of the Siege of Syracuse, an epic clash not just of armies, but of brute force versus sheer intellect. A battle where one man's genius held the Roman war machine at bay. The year is 213 BCE. The Mediterranean is in turmoil. Rome has just suffered a devastating, almost apocalyptic defeat at the hands of Hannibal Barca at the Battle of Cannae. Tens of thousands of Roman soldiers lie dead, and the Republic's grip on its allies is slipping. One of those allies was the powerful Greek city-state of Syracuse, on the vital island of Sicily. For decades, Syracuse had been a loyal friend to Rome under its wise king, Hiero II. But Hiero is dead, and his young, ambitious grandson has taken the throne. Swayed by pro-Carthaginian factions, he makes a fatal decision. He betrays Rome and allies with Hannibal. For Rome, this was an existential crisis. A hostile Syracuse meant Hannibal could use Sicily as a massive staging ground to invade Italy. It meant losing control of the Mediterranean. They couldn't let it stand. So they sent their best man for the job, Marcus Claudius Marcellus. A hardened five-time consul, Marcellus was known as the Sword of Rome. He was a brilliant and ruthless commander, fresh from victories against the Gauls, and he was tasked with a simple mission: take Syracuse by any means necessary. Marcellus arrived with an overwhelming force, a massive fleet, and tens of thousands of legionaries. He was confident. Syracuse was a fortress, yes, with legendary walls, but no city had ever withstood the full might of a Roman consular army. He planned a simultaneous assault by land and by sea, expecting the city to fall within days. Picture this: two massive warships, quinqueremes, lashed together. On top, they mounted a gigantic siege tower with a scaling ladder, so tall it could reach the top of the city walls. Covered in animal hides to protect them from fire, these contraptions looked like giant, floating harps, which is what Sambuca means. The plan was to row these monsters right up to the walls, drop the bridge, and unleash hundreds of legionaries directly onto the battlements. It was a testament to Roman engineering and brute force confidence. What could possibly stop it? Well, Marcellus had accounted for the soldiers of Syracuse. He had accounted for their walls, but he had not accounted for the mind of Archimedes. As the Roman fleet, a forest of masts and siege engines, advanced on the city, the Syracusans watched in terror. But Archimedes remained calm. He had spent years turning his beloved city into a laboratory of defensive warfare. As the Romans entered his kill zone, the walls of Syracuse seemed to come alive. First came the artillery. Archimedes had designed catapults of all sizes, perfectly calibrated for different ranges. Giant stone throwers, capable of hurling boulders weighing over a quarter of a ton, smashed into the Roman ships from a distance, shattering hulls and scattering crews. As the fleet got closer, they were met by a storm of smaller, faster projectiles from so-called scorpions, rapid-fire bolt throwers that swept the decks of soldiers. The Roman advance faltered under this scientifically orchestrated barrage. The air was thick with the whistle of bolts and the crash of stone on wood. But the true nightmare was yet to be revealed. For the ships that survived the artillery and reached the base of the walls, Archimedes had prepared his masterpiece. As a Roman sambuca maneuvered into position, a giant crane-like arm, hidden behind the battlements, swung out over the water. At its end was a massive iron grappling hook. This was the legendary claw of Archimedes. The claw dropped down, its iron talons biting deep into the bow of the Roman vessel. Then, with the power of immense counterweights and pulleys, the crane began to lift. Imagine the sheer terror of the Roman soldiers as their entire warship, weighing dozens of tons, was hoisted vertically out of the sea, its stern crashing into the water, men and equipment spilling overboard. The ship would be lifted high into the air, dangling helplessly, before the claw released its grip. The vessel would then plummet back down, either smashing to pieces against the rocks at the base of the wall, or being swamped by the massive wave it created. The psychological impact was devastating. The Romans were masters of conventional warfare, but this was something else entirely. It was as if they were fighting not men, but a malevolent god of the machine. The historian Polybius, writing just a few decades later, described the scene. The Roman soldiers were so utterly terrified that if they so much as saw a piece of rope or a beam of wood appear over the top of the wall, they would break ranks and flee screaming that Archimedes was about to unleash another one of his infernal devices upon them. There are also tales, most famously from the writer Lucian, of Archimedes using an array of mirrors or polished shields to focus the sun's S-rays into a concentrated beam, setting the Roman ships on fire from a distance. While modern experiments, including a famous one by Mythbusters, have cast doubt on the practicality of this death ray, the legend itself speaks to the absolute terror Archimedes inspired. Whether it was real or not, the Romans believed he was capable of anything. Their morale was shattered. Marcellus, the sword of Rome, was forced to admit defeat. He couldn't take the city by storm. His machines were no match for Archimedes' machines. Humiliated, he pulled his forces back and settled in for a long, grueling siege. For nearly 2 years, a tense stalemate ensued. Archimedes' genius had made the walls of Syracuse impregnable. Marcellus's legions controlled the land around the city, cutting off most supplies, but they couldn't break through the defenses. The fate of Syracuse hung in the balance, a war of attrition between Roman persistence and Syracusan ingenuity. It seemed that as long as Archimedes was alive, the city could not fall. But the greatest weapon in any siege is not a catapult or a battering ram. It's human nature. The turning point came not from a new machine, but from a moment of carelessness. In the year 212 BCE, the city of Syracuse was celebrating a religious festival in honor of the goddess Artemis. It was a multi-day affair, and wine flowed freely. Believing the Romans were settled in for the winter and posed no immediate threat, the sentries guarding the walls grew complacent, many of them drinking heavily and abandoning their posts. But the Romans were always watching. A Roman scout had previously identified a section of the wall near the northern gate, known as the hexapylon, that was not as high as the rest. It was a subtle vulnerability, but it was enough. Marcellus saw his chance. Under the thick cover of night, while the sounds of celebration echoed from within the city, a small elite detachment of Roman soldiers crept towards the wall with scaling ladders. They moved in absolute silence. They reached the designated spot, scaled the wall, and found the sentries either asleep or drunk. They were dispatched quietly. The commandos then raced to the hexapylon gate, overpowered the guards, and threw it open. The trap had been sprung. Marcellus's legions, waiting in the darkness, poured through the open gate. The impregnable city, the fortress of science that had defied the Roman army for 2 years, was finally breached. Chaos erupted as the Romans fanned out through the city's outer districts. What followed was the brutal sack of Syracuse. Marcellus, for all his ruthlessness, had developed a grudging respect for the genius who had outsmarted him at every turn. He gave a specific order. Archimedes was to be found and brought to him unharmed. He wanted to meet the man whose mind had held off his legions. But in the chaos of a city being sacked, orders are easily lost. A Roman soldier, looting his way through the city, burst into the home of a 75-year-old man. He found the old man utterly oblivious to the chaos around him, hunched over and intensely focused on a series of circles and geometric figures he had drawn in sand or dust on the floor. The soldier demanded to know who he was and ordered him to come along. The old man, lost in his thoughts, waved him away impatiently. According to the historian Plutarch, Archimedes' last words were, "Do not disturb my circles." The soldier, enraged by this perceived defiance from an old man, had no idea who he was talking to. He drew his sword and ran him through. And so, the greatest mind of the ancient world was extinguished by a common soldier who could not appreciate the value of what he was destroying. When Marcellus learned of Archimedes' death, he was reportedly devastated. He had conquered Syracuse, but he felt the victory was hollow. The one prize he truly wanted from the city, the living mind of his great adversary, was gone forever. He gave Archimedes an honorable burial, and even looked after his surviving relatives. The fall of Syracuse was a major turning point in the war against Hannibal. It secured the island of Sicily for Rome, ensuring a steady supply of grain and denying Hannibal a crucial base of operations. The city itself would never again be an independent power. It became a provincial capital under Roman rule for the next 6 centuries. The legacy of the siege is complex. It's a testament to the relentless, grinding power of the Roman war machine, a superpower that could afford to wait, to probe for weakness, and to capitalize on a single mistake. But it is also the ultimate story of the power of the human intellect. For 2 years, one man's genius was worth more than an entire army. Archimedes' inventions, from compound pulleys to advanced artillery, would influence military and civilian engineering for 1,000 years. The Siege of Syracuse remains etched in history as the definitive confrontation between the sword and the mind, a grim but awe-inspiring reminder that while brute force can win battles, the power of a single brilliant idea can for a time hold the world at bay. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic stories from history. Let me know in the comments what you think was Archimedes' most incredible invention. We'll see you in the next one.
And that wraps up today's 15-minute battle. If you want to master more moments of military history in less time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next 15-minute battle.